Before there were maps, there were two worlds. The world you know, and the shining realm of Kaf, hidden just beyond it. A kingdom of fairies and giants and magic. On the night he was born, an emperor 1,000 miles away woke from a dream. A black crow that stole his crown, and a bright hawk that flew out of the west to win it back. And the wise men said, "That hawk is a child, and he will shake the thrones of the world." That same night, the fairies of Kaf carried the sleeping baby across the sky. They blessed him, and they touched his eyes, so that nothing hidden could ever hide from him again. His name was Hamza. He would become the bravest champion the world had ever seen. Strong as a lion, a warrior against 100 armies, a prince who lost his heart to a princess, and at his side, the cleverest trickster who ever lived. Amar, a thief of 1,000 disguises, and the truest friend a hero ever had. Together, they crossed burning deserts and enchanted mountains. They faced sorcerers and giants and dragons and the demon armies of Kaf. They saw wonders no eye had ever seen. Thrones that flew, cities of gold, gardens that bloomed in the dark, courage, magic, love, and laughter. One of the greatest stories ever told, carried for 1,000 years. And now, it is yours. This is the Dastan of Amir Hamza. And heaven mocks them with the same two little instruments, a ladder and a window. Now hear how the emperor of the world feasted, and how two men came uninvited to his feast, and how the two most dangerous hearts in the empire fell in love while only 3 people watched. For a week, the pleasure gardens of Ctesiphon blazed with lamps. There were musicians and candles of camphor, and the King of Kings himself poured wine for Hamza, with his own royal hand. And because 2 men were forbidden that garden by name, at the gate stood Adi, with a single standing order. No Amar and no Baktak. But you have not forgotten Amar, and Amar does not forget a gate. He came to it with a ruby in his palm and pressed it into Adi's hand, and by the time Adi looked down, the ruby had turned to a fistful of sand. 3 bounds carried Amar over the wall, and then no uproar at all, only a lute beneath the great chinar tree, and a voice so unfairly beautiful that the whole feast fell silent on its own, the way a room hushes when a candle is carried in. The king sent an usher to fetch the singer, but Amar, all false modesty, only sang the louder of how he preferred his solitude, sang it so the king would have no choice but to come to him. And Naushavan came, laughing. By dawn, the thief of Mecca was cupbearer and flautist, and the emperor's newest and most delightful toy, with pearls heaped in his lap. For Hamza wins his rooms upon the battlefield, children, but Amar wins his the way water wins, by finding the low way in. And Baktak came to the same wall, but where Amar leapt it, Baktak chose the drainage gutter, the filth channel, and stripped himself naked first, if you please, to keep his fine robes dry. Now the gardeners at the outflow had been warned that very evening by a deeply, deeply concerned Amar. So they netted the vizier as he crawled out of the drain, and they beat him magnificently, and they bound him naked in a tree until the morning. And when the king was shown him there at dawn, the great Baktak, treed like a cat, his laughter, the tale says, opened like a rose. And then, sweetest of all, Amar rescued him, pleaded his pardon, bought back his stolen clothes for 300 tumans of his own coin, and entered the whole disgraceful affair with the page number into a ledger he carried and announced to the court, his notebook of stupidity, so that now the proudest man in Persia owed his very dignity to the one man on earth he hated most. Mark that debt, children. It does not get paid. It gathers interest. But now the tale grows quiet. Now there is no music. By day the king was showing off his marble, the palace of the 40 pillars, and its cool water channels running through the inner gardens. And Hamza, apart from the others, was bathing at one such channel. And above him, from behind a carved lattice, the princess Mihr Nigar saw him. The old poets would say, a love arrow struck her. I will tell you only what there was to see, the pitcher in her hand overflowing, and she not feeling it run down her wrist. Then she unclasped the necklace from her own throat, and she dropped it, deliberate, reckless, royal, so that it fell upon his wet shoulder. He looked up, but the lattice was already empty, only a curtain, still moving. And Hamza came back to the feast that evening carrying a lady's necklace and no explanation whatsoever. Muqbil noticed. Muqbil said nothing. He always notices. That one. He never says. That night Hamza could not sleep, and he walked upon the palace roof. And below him, in her own courtyard, sat Mihr Nigar among her ladies, with the wine going round. He was about to withdraw, and then he stopped, for the first lady raised her cup and drank to Amar, the trickster, and the second raised hers and drank to Muqbil, the faithful. And around that circle it went. Every last one of his companions had a secret admirer among the princess's women, and Hamza crouched in the dark above them, counting on his fingers, scandalized, mouthing to himself, how long has all of this been going on? And last, the princess herself raised her cup and said, I drink to the slayer of Hisham of Khaybar, the one who set all of yours free. And every cup she lifted after that, for 3 hours until the party slept, was to him, to the Sahib Kiran. So he climbed down, he crept past the sleeping ladies, and he stood over her sleeping face. She who, the tale says so beautifully, in coquettish sleep, yet seems to lie awake. And this hero, this breaker of armies, reached down to steal a single kiss, like a common thief. And being the least practised sneak in all the world, he slipped. She woke screaming, thief, thief! The ladies came stampeding, and Hamza, cornered, dripping with everything but dignity, drew himself up and announced, most formally, Beloved, I am the slayer of Hisham of Khaybar, and I am slain, in my turn, by the charm of Mihr Nigar. And she knew him, and she was mortified, and so she hid him under her own bed, and cried out that she had only had a nightmare, and sent the whole household away. And then, once they were gone, she fainted properly, and was brought back to herself by his breath upon her face. And they spoke until dawn came grey through the lattice, and their parting was made like a treaty, and meant like a vow. Do not, he said, let this poor victim of separation slip out of your heart. And she gave him her answer, the couplet that will come back to us, children, before this tale is done. Go now, and whatever will be, will be. Slowly, slowly, my heart will learn to wait. And the morning after was pure comedy, with a knife hidden in it. For at the king's garden party, Hamza could not sit still. Twice he rose and left the gathering, only to go and stare at the wall of her palace. And each time he cheerfully paid the fine that Baktak's spite had set on his leaving, 100 tumans an exit, like a happy man buying tickets to his own foolishness. And 3 men diagnosed his sickness at once across that garden, Buzurjmer, the vizier, fondly, Amar, delighted, and Baktak, calculating, a single 3-cornered glance that holds the whole rest of this age within it. But the vizier moved first. Baktak had to go, so Amar volunteered to serve the wine himself, and Baktak, who knew better, who said aloud, "Something here is fishy," was shamed before the whole court into drinking the trickster's cup regardless. and the laxative did its slow and patient civic justice. The couch beside the throne was ruined, and Adi dragged the vizier out of the royal presence, by his beard, at the king's own furious command. Exit the villain at his very lowest, which is always, always, the moment before he is at his most dangerous. So the necklace found a neck to hang all its trouble upon. A vizier knew, and smiled. A trickster knew, and drank a toast. And a man with laxative on his breath, and a beard-shaped grievance in his heart knew too, and went home to sharpen it. Sleep now, children. The lamp is low. The price of the princess, when at last they name it, will not be 100 tumans. And tomorrow, I will tell you of a giant from the land of Ceylon, and the first shadow that falls across the king's love for Hamza.